Welcome to the second installment of This Week in Vegan Instagram. This is your host, Carnivore is Vegan, and we're back. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Get some support for the anti-vegan channels. Yay! And thanks, a big shout out to Vegan Phobic and Sea Siren Janine for promoting my channel and giving me a few subscribers this week. I have almost 200 subscribers in my first week. Yay! Thanks, guys. In any case, I got a couple of complaints last week that my volume was too low, but on my playback it's fine and actually really loud. So let me know what the volume is and if there's any problems, but I don't know that I can change it. It seems clear and it seems loud to me. So let me know in the comments if there's any problems. I'll see if I can fix that, but it seems okay. But maybe not to you guys. Let me know. Anyway, this week we're going to start out with a guy named Wild Quetzal. He is an anti-vegan for various reasons and has just this, he's just been knocking it out of the park and has been making tons of anti-vegan content. Here we'll do a little clip of one of his videos. It's just great. I highly recommend you subscribing. He's on TikTok and on Instagram. Here we go. Sorry for the slight delay.
Veganism is a byproduct of colonization. Before European colonizers arrived, the indigenous people of the Americas utilized all kingdoms of life for sustenance. When colonizers came, they thought indigenous foods were subpar, so they began to import domestic animals and food crops from their homelands. One of the tools of colonization is the disruption of the indigenous food systems. An example of this is the killing of buffalo to make the Native Americans dependent on the colonizers' food supply. In the same way, veganism is the next phase of creating food dependence. It is not an idea born of connection and integration with the land, but of extreme disconnection from the natural world. We can see this by searching easiest places to be vegan. You will get a list of cities, because cities is what makes this lifestyle possible. The closer you get to the natural world and food sovereignty, the more this illusion falls apart and the more conscious omnivory.
I won't show you the whole thing, but that's the gist of most of his topics, and he's got a bunch of videos on it. Subscribe to the guy. He's just great. I love it. Anyway, a new study came out. Israeli study. Humans were hypercarnivorous apex predators for 2 million years. This is a study that was reported by Dr. What's his name? Miki Bendor, Miki is his first name, and his last name is Ben space D apostrophe OR, and he's an Israeli paleoanthropologist who does all sorts of talks. Look for him on Google and YouTube for Miki Bendor, Man the Fat Hunter, and a few others. There's some really great content, but he actually became a carnivore after doing his research because he figured that was our human species appropriate diet. So he's getting the word out and getting lots of research done on this. Cool guy. Go check him out. Next, we're going to go to Plant-Based Doctor. I told you I'd have a lot more on this guy, and his posts are just either they're just disingenuous or just blatantly wrong. And this time he said, Australia's fittest man also struggling to find protein. Of course, he's being facetious and saying that he's not. Well, yes, James Newberry is Australia's fittest man, and he's a vegan. However, he's only been vegan 2 years, as you can see down there. And, you know, so what? He was already the world's fittest man before he became vegan. So he hasn't done anything since he's been vegan. So he went vegan after 2019, at the very end of 2019, I believe in December. I have a slide on it in just a second. But he was already the fittest man 4 times before he went vegan. So this is the 2019 CrossFit Games stats and record takeaways, and it's August 11th, 2019. And he earned the title of Australia's fittest man a little bit before that, and then during that August 11th, 2019, he was number 5 in the world. But here in Veg News, he went fully vegan as of the 12th of November that same year, after he became the world's fittest man and got fifth in the world in the CrossFit Games. So, whoo, big whoop. He hasn't done anything since then. The 2020 games were canceled, so he's doing the next one supposedly, but he hasn't done anything. So what? 2 years, and usually it takes 2 to 5 years is when people quit. That's when their um, B12 stores and their nutrient deficiencies kick in, and he's taken a bunch of protein powders. So big whoop. Um, all 4 times he got the title of Australia's fittest man, he was still eating meat. So yay, go meat. And this is a little video from plant-based doctors' stories that just cracked me up. This was the best example he had of one of his children loving vegetables. He's like, wow, vegetables are great. They taste wonderful. And just watch this super close because his son actually doesn't eat the vegetable and then he hides it afterwards, after he hides it and doesn't eat it.
Yummy. It's good, is it? It's pretty delicious to me, mate.
And now in slow-mo. And here goes the carrot. Oh. And he hits and misses. He pretends to eat it. And instead, he transfers it to the other hand. And then does a fake out for his dad. Oh, yeah, I put it in my mouth. It's so delicious, Dad. What a crack up. Kid doesn't even want to eat vegetables. He's just being forced to by his dad. Crack up. Hollywood director James Cameron's Enviro turns to dairy cow grazing. Apparently he has a big farm in Wairarapa. Sorry, New Zealanders, if I pronounced that totally wrong, but it's in New Zealand. He also has a farm in California that they call a micro farm. It's 100 acres. I don't consider that a micro farm. But he's been grazing cows there because apparently he's not having any success with his vegetable farm that he started out having. And locals basically were whistleblowers and turned him into the press. Hugely funny. They said he's been pushing a vegan way of doing things while making money out of beef or dairy cattle. Too funny. Another quote from the locals was, I think they are unrealistic given the sort of climate and conditions, particularly in this area, that you would ever run a farm without animals. And they're finding that out the hard way. Of course, they tried to contact them for comment and they didn't comment. Fueled by the truth. Yes, game changers fueled by the truth, right, James Cameron? And so that makes, you can't really run a dairy farm and be vegan. So even though they're supposedly maybe not eating meat, I don't know. James Cameron and Susie Amos Cameron are not vegans anymore. They are dairy farmers. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jackie Chan were never vegan. Neither one of them were. Novak Djokovic and Chris Paul also are not vegan, so Lewis Hamilton is the only Game Changer executive producer that is still vegan. Go Game Changers. Bunch of propaganda. That story reminds me of the owners of Cafe Gratitude and Gracias Madre, that is a San Francisco-based and now LA-based vegan restaurant chain that's still very successful. But their owners, Matthew and Terses Engelhart, I'm not sure if that's how you say her name, Terses, I'm not sure. They wanted to also be good stewards and do veganic farming, so they wanted better vegetables for their restaurant, Cafe Gratitude, which I used to go to when I lived in San Francisco. Wildly expensive, but the food was actually really good. And most of it raw, I believe, if I recall correctly, but wildly, wildly expensive. So they're fairly well off. So they decided to buy land and decided to farm it for their restaurants. And they found that they couldn't do it. And so they turned to animals and began farming animals and started eating animals because they wanted to be sustainable. And they realized they couldn't be sustainable without animals on their land. And Primal Edge Health did a great podcast on this. If you wanted to hear his story about it, it's called Veganic No More. So if you just Google Veganic No More with Primal Edge Health, you'll run across it. It's a really great interview where he talks about how he just couldn't steward the land without animals on it. Moving on to John Venus. Look at his physique. It's gotten quite small. Uh, and he goes into the details of this, which is very, very interesting. John Venus, why did I do this to myself? I've been losing all my passion for lifting weights. Why do you look smaller, softer, less impressive? Are questions I often get asked nowadays. I won't go over that whole thing, but this was the interesting part. He says, now that I have fully left my vegan identity behind, I find no reason to train like I used to anymore. Did you really, John? When did that happen? I know that you went vegan, that you were a vegan, started eating meat, then you went back to being vegan. So when was this fully leaving your vegan identity behind? I'm not sure, but you haven't really talked about it. But he's been taking shirtless photos that didn't have the effect he wanted. Poor thing. This was he showed a picture of his house in his stories, and that's his poor, sad little chicken coop with no chickens in it that he never told us what happened to his poor little chickens. Now it's snowed over. It's not a very good thought to have outdoor, sort of free-range-ish chickens in the middle of winter in Norway, but why didn't you ever tell us what happened to your little chickens, John? Talking about nutrition facts, which we discussed last week, he also said another lie. My gosh, this guy's wrong all the time. It doesn't take much fiber to cut stroke risk. What? Interestingly, so vegans should have a very low stroke risk if it takes just 7 grams a day is associated with 7% risk reduction, but the opposite is actually true. Risk of ischemic heart disease and stroke in meat eaters, fish eaters, and vegetarians. Follow up from an 18 years in the EPIC Oxford study, and it shows that vegans have higher stroke risk. So they have a reportedly higher, 21% higher risk of hemorrhagic stroke. And this was an 18-year study. It's been correlated with other studies as well, possibly because of low cholesterol levels, which is another that's also been studied. Having low cholesterol can increase stroke risk. They also say that animal products might be protective of stroke. There's also a link between vitamin B12 deficiency and stroke. So why is Dr. Greger lying about stroke risk when actually vegans have a higher stroke risk? Not very honest of you, Dr. Greger. Seaspiracy is the latest talk on all the vegan posts. Everybody's all, oh, Seaspiracy. But as soon as it came out, there were the people that they actually interviewed said that they misrepresented them and took things out of context. Mainly that they said, most of the people that they interviewed actually said, no, I feel that fishing is completely sustainable and that's ridiculous that fish will be gone by 2030 or 2045, whatever they said. Um, and interestingly, this guy is hilarious. Oops. So this guy is actually a vegan. He's called the Cranky Vegan. I don't think it shows down there.
Relate to the
But
game
he is a
Seaspiracy is a
vegan
new
and an
documentary
animal
that has
activist.
reached.
And
Relate
so
to the
you've got to listen to what he says. It's almost, he's just doing our work for us. And it sounds very anti-vegan. And listen to this short clip that I made on TikTok. But watch go to his channel to see the whole thing. He's on YouTube, Cranky Vegan, and that's the name of his YouTube video right there.
Relate to the game, Seaspiracy is a new documentary that has reached the top 10 list in the US on Netflix. It takes a hard-hitting look at fishing and the environment and its impact on the environment, which, if you're familiar with the other films kind of in this unofficial series, Cowspiracy, What the Health, and now Seaspiracy, the release of the film means three basic things in the minds of animal rights activists. Vegans are now encouraged to attack environmental activists again. We use selective outrage to build a misplaced and forced narrative to place blame elsewhere, and we tell everyone the way out of this issue is to simply be vegan while leaving the actual campaigning and change making to the people who we just spent an hour and a half bashing. A number of these interviews in these films are shot with people who are requested to speak about something different than what the film is actually about. They're essentially misled into engaging in these conversations, or they are told what the actual topics of the finalized
the only
film are
person of color
and
that they had in their film that they interviewed, and she didn't know that she was in the film until it came out. She had no idea, even though she was interviewed, and she didn't feel that they represented her position at all. And someone replied, "I'm really sorry. Can you shed light on whether your remarks were taken out of context or edited?" And she said that she didn't even know she was in it until a few days ago. She just wanted to be clear where she stood. She values working with journalists, but they took her out of context completely. Let's read that again. So she's committed her career to this industry that they represented her as bashing, and she didn't. So very, very interesting stuff. A lot of other criticisms about Seaspiracy have come out. Going to fully Raw Christina. This is her monthly Sun Warrior box, and I thought, oh, she's like doing a giveaway. That must be her. She's doing a monthly giveaway. No, this is the products she uses every month. I don't even want to know how much that costs every month. $300, $400? That is insane. She's not just fully raw, like she's got all these supplements, and I knew she took supplements. She's gone over her supplement regimen before, but I didn't realize how extensive it was, and this is just absolutely ridiculous. She probably gets it comped because she's promoting them and she's got a big follower, but Jesus Christ, that's got to be $400, $300, $400 every month if us peons were to afford it. And speaking of, oh, that's my next story, but Cash still hasn't posted since that February 14th Valentine's Day post, and he hasn't been in any of hers except for the next one, but he doesn't really show himself very much. But he is, apparently they still are together. All the photos are by him, and he was commenting, and he said, "Oh, that was great, babe," in a couple of posts. So they're still together, but she doesn't feature him at all, so it makes you wonder what his muscle mass is doing and if he's looking in good health. But I just wanted to show you her new place, all the work that she's been doing, and how much this must have cost her to get these, 6 raised beds or 8 raised beds to plant in. Check out what she's doing and all the heavy equipment she's using. It's a video. It'll start in a second. This is on her regular posts. So she's got an excavator, she's got workmen, there's Cash, she's got a tractor with a bucket that looks like road grade that she's putting in between there. She's got people doing fancy cuts for her bamboo posts to make it look pretty. And 2, 4, 6, maybe 8 raised beds. And all that heavy equipment to have cleared the land and to have got the tractors in there and the road grading in between and putting the fencing up and the lights and the bamboo cut, that had to have been $10,000, $15,000. My goodness. I mean, Christina is talking like everybody can do this, but it's only us peons. Us peons couldn't afford to do what she's doing. We'd have to have worked for months and months and months laboring by hand. I'm a farmer, and I just moved to a farm last year, and man, getting that kind of stuff done is expensive and hard labor. So she's paying a lot of money for that. Um, so I just wanted to give you a little taste of life on our farm. This will be the last thing I show you. Watching, those are our new goslings. Introducing them to their gander papa for the first time. Super cute. Anyway, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.